Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, traders and investors. Welcome to Friday, December 29th, 2017's edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep, our final show of the year. We are ready and raring to go. I am Joel Elconin here with Dennis Dick. Once again, Luke Jacoby sitting in for Spencer Israel. We got the Brenster and Nick fired up. We got some news today, folks. Even on this slow day, we got some biotech news. Chicago PMI, who no one really cares about, but that will be out later in the day. Someone made a great call on Gain Capital in here, and we want to give them credit in the chat. I'm not sure if it was Fuzzy or who it was, but that stock's on the move. Even Dennis bought some. Ag stocks are moving. Dennis is very impressed with what's been going on Fast Money here. The retail trader taking over. Crude over $60. We could talk about Apple this week. Our guest at 8:35 will be Nicola Duke. She's an analyst for Forex Analytics. And I got a special guest I might sneak in at 8:55 here if we have time. But Dennis, we were talking yesterday, the consolidation, 8 lows in the same area. You said, I bet you we sneak up there and test all-time highs. And great call, buddy. 98 and a quarter. 98 and a quarter. Boom. What do you think? We're going to just drift, test that this morning?
We're going to close at all-time highs for the year. I think so, or close near it, because this market it's been such a good year. Why not? So that's why I said it yesterday morning when we were trading down near those lows. We're up $1 yesterday on the SPY. Now we're up another 80 cents on the SPY here, testing those highs. I think that's what this market wants to do. It wants to close near the highs. So I predict a good day again here for the market.
98.
Starting strong.
I'll give you the numbers here. 98 even. That was a double top. That was real high. We printed 98 and a quarter. We backed off a couple points here. That pre-market low, 84.75. That's just $1 below the close. I don't think we'll be seeing that. Maybe the story of the year, crude, closing over $60, trading at 60.05. You knew they were going to run those stops at 60, went to 60.32. Gold just hooked, looking at a whole number 2, up $1.60, 12.99.80. That 1300's been a big area. And silver's down just a tad, but knocking on the door of $17. But what we like about this chat is good ideas. And sometimes Dennis takes these ideas and adds them into his portfolio. And Dennis, tell us about GCAP, the news, what you did with it. And Fuzzy said it wasn't him, but we'd sure like to give credit to whoever came up with this idea. Give us
somebody at the end of November. We were talking Bitcoin plays and blockchain, but specifically we were talking Bitcoin plays. And somebody in the chat, I'm not sure who it is, if you're listening, speak up, came out with this idea for Gain Capital corporations. They're going to allow you to trade Bitcoin. And, this was after the whole Square thing was going to be. I was like, you know what? That sounds pretty good. I actually researched the firm there a little bit after they gave the symbol there. They gave us this idea for the chat. We mentioned it on the show that day because they gave us the idea. I researched it, the GCAP, and it had a 2.8% dividend when it was $7. And I was looking at it. I was like, this is my kind of stock. Get a little dividend. They're going to allow you to play Bitcoin. I was like, what the hell? I'll throw some of this in my investment portfolio. So I put a chunk of my investment portfolio. I was just sitting around doing nothing for a month. So, I wasn't really, I was still liked it because that's 2.8%. This wasn't a trade. It was, longer term investment. And I was like, maybe they get a little pop from, some of this Bitcoin stuff. Maybe they get some headlines or some press or something, and eventually goes. Well, wouldn't you know it, yesterday, they get a little story written them from Mox Reports, and it blasts off in orbit, and now it's the hottest thing. So I'm thanking whoever that was. It was Aviator One saying it was Iceman. I'm not sure if that's who it was or not, but I'm thanking whoever that was because I'm up nicely on this. I'm up like 50% in this in 2 days. So give us the details here, Luke. What exactly was what did Mox Reports write about GCAP?
Yep. So Mox Reports is written by a guy named Richard Pearson. He was a former investment banker and focuses on a lot of international stuff. And essentially what he said is the same thing that whoever was in the chat came out with, which is that they've had these crypto products, but nobody's realizing it in the U.S. because they do not have a U.S. product yet. He went on to highlight that, the blockchain stocks, your Riots, your DPWs are up about 217% since announcing that they had some sort of blockchain exposure with almost a 480% peak move. And then also explained who this is helpful for. So the people who are in, like a South Korea who came out with some regulation yesterday, China, who's highly regulated in the cryptocurrency space, said that these guys or people that live over there can go and use, Gain Capital's platform to trade crypto products.
The big thing here, and I read the Mox Reports there too after the fact, and the big thing that I noticed, was what he was saying was you've got stocks like Riot and, what are the other ones like that Long Island Iced Tea was ridiculous. It's come back down a long ways. But, these stocks have went up 200-400% just because they've been mentioning blockchain. And this isn't blockchain. This is back to Bitcoin allowing you to trade. But this is a real company, doing real stuff, making money. And they're going to have exposure to trading Bitcoin, and they're probably going to go after, the likes of some of these other crypto exchanges there because the spreads are pretty crazy to my understanding. There's been some system outages. So maybe Gain Capital, is a little bit maybe better way is what they're arguing to trade Bitcoin.
Yeah,
that sounds good to me, and that's why I bought it originally because they said they were going to, be able to trade the Bitcoin, and I've just been kind of sitting on it here. And obviously now you get the headline, you get the pop, and I don't know. Now you got to go analyze technicals and try to figure it out. But these things get crazy, and I tell you, it's went full crazy mode here the last 2 days. It's trading up 30% here again today. So I don't know. I'm just sitting here. I'm not sure what to do. Maybe the chat can tell me what to do with my shares, or maybe Joel can tell me what to do with my shares. What are your thoughts here? I went out and looked at the all-time high. That's interesting at 1462. That was back in 2013. That was kind of my target when I bought the thing originally. I was thinking it was maybe $14. I just didn't think I was going to get there in a month or in 2 days.
Pre-market high made a couple brackets ago at 1293. That's by a whole number, right? So what you want to do is you want to see it, take out that pre-market high, barrel through $13. And
I think it tests 14. I think it tests the high today, 14.6. It's got so much momentum. Yeah. Why not test the high? 13. I just don't know if I should sell it there if it gets up there.
Well, if that was your target, Dennis, then, maybe take half off.
I could do that. And that's, crossed my mind too. Sometimes that's what you did on your Bitcoins when you got doubled your money in 3 weeks. You sold half and then you're playing with the house's money. I was in it. I think I bought at 770. So it wouldn't quite be a double for me at that point, but it would be close. I don't know. If it gets up there at 14 area, I'm going to have trouble not ringing the register.
All right, 1348. Just keep that in mind. That was back in October of 2013. It hit that. And then in September of 2014, it hit 1462. You just mentioned Bitcoin here. And boy, man, this thing is just getting to be classic, technical here. I mean, you had that break, 14,000. It held that low this morning. And now it's trading up 14,472. So still under that 50% retracement, though. Came back a little bit. Looks like the futures have tamed it down, but I'll work some numbers on Bitcoin here over the weekend to start the new year. All right.
Well, this Gain Capital, though, here. So when you're looking at this from a pure technical basis, Joel, what are you seeing in the levels? Like, do you see, obviously you see 1462, but do you see anything else that's concerning here?
1348.
That high, that was the next week after that.
Yeah, back in October.
So you got some resistance, you're saying, up there in the 12, 13. You go further back. I only got an 8-year chart here. You go further back. Has this been any higher than that before?
No, this looks like it was an IPO here in October of 2010.
Okay, so we're looking at Gain Capital here, GCAP. Again, there's a dividend here. That's why it's my kind of stock, and I was going to sit on this for a while, but it's hard. When a stock goes up 70, 80%, if it does to get up to that 14, I'd be up 80% in a matter of 3 weeks. It's hard not to take some of that off the table because that's a gift.
I mean, some of these other brokerages have been on fire too. I mean, look at TD Ameritrade. It's traded well. What's SCHW?
Well, they're all been hot.
Schwab. So, I mean, if it's the brokerage here, then maybe this is just playing some catch up here. So, I wouldn't be rushing out on it, Dennis. Let it ride. Maybe get taken out on some weakness instead of worrying about trying to sell the 1358 or, the 1462. Just maybe keep moving that mental stop up and maybe never get taken out. That's what's kept me in my Western Digital, though. Here, this $80, though, is still starting to concern me. But, maybe get taken out on weakness instead of trying to pick a top.
We're looking here still at Bitcoin plays. MSRT, which is an over-the-counter stock, hasn't really traded here yet. Mass Roots Forums Unit for blockchain-based solutions for cannabis. MSRT is the ticker symbol there. So again, it's only just trades on the bulletin board. It's only a couple hundred shares here. When that's a difficult thing to trade there at 8 o'clock in the morning. But at 9:30, we'll get some action here on MSRT. So keep that one in mind here. As yet another blockchain play potentially here. Now, again, most of these things, and that was even said in the Mox reports, a lot of these companies are taking advantage of the buzz. And I think long term, a lot of these, probably don't have a lot to stand on. But this GCAP was a real company. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I'll hop into Dennis with I got two other blockchain plays for you.
What do you got?
We've got ZK International. This one is old news. It came out right after our show. Yeah, right after our show yesterday. And there's also company Renren, ticker RENN. Put out a press release saying that they are going to leverage blockchain in their solutions. It's a holding company for a lot of fintech firms like SoFi.
When did that one come out?
That was earlier this morning. I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 a.m.
These
Chinese
things
company.
are not popping like they did before, though. That's only up 5%. That's ZKIN, or Z as we say in Canada, IN1 from yesterday. Went up to 15, and it was 17 in the pre-market. It almost gave it all back. So these things now, the Bitcoin, the GCAP was a different story, but the ones that are just saying something on blockchain, they're getting a pop still initially here, but they're not holding the gains very strongly. I think a lot of this buzz here, where you see blockchain, let's buy it up 300%. I think those days are gone. Now it's a matter of you get a little pop. Everybody's hitting the sell button a little bit quicker than they were maybe last week.
And do you think that is because, we've seen it so many times and investors are getting sick of it? Or do you think it's because of, the weakness in Bitcoin where it goes from 20,000 to 14,000?
I think a little bit of both, but I also think people are getting burned. You had a few people that have bought these things up right after, and, like the Long Island Iced Tea one, people got burned bad on that. That went up to like $15 in the pre-market. Yep. So you were like 10 minutes after the thing or 20 minutes after the thing when it went from 2.5 to 15. It opened at 9 that day, and it's back down to 4. People got burned buying that a little bit too much. Now they're getting burned even when they're buying them up a little bit. Like even that ZKIN one from yesterday. Anybody about that in the pre-market at 17 was immediately down money when it opened the regular session because it opened up at 16 and then tanked from that point, 14, 12, 10. So as people aren't making money doing it, they stop doing it. So also, if you're a few seconds after it seems to still be money. But if you're paying up 50%, 80% now, those guys aren't making money on these plays. Now, the ones that are, can buy it up 1 or 2%, those are 3%, that seems to still be working. But it's kind of how it works. You get the buzz. You go, everybody's making 500% on this. Buy. I'll buy it up 100%. Even me as a trader, I'll buy something up 100% if I think it's going up 500%. But now I see these things and I think, they might go up 10, 15% or 20%, maybe 30%, but they're going to give it back. It's a lot more risk to pay up 10%.
Hey, Dennis, we got
going up 20.
We got to interrupt you here. El Presidente's tweeting here about Amazon. What do you got for me, Luke?
Yeah, so Donald Trump just tweeted maybe 2-3 minutes ago, why is the United States Post Office, which is losing many billions of dollars a year while charging Amazon and others so little to deliver their packages, making Amazon richer and the post office dumber and poorer, should be charging much more. All caps on the much more.
Such a professional tweet.
Yes.
Dumber and poorer.
Dumber and poorer.
It's been a while.
I don't even know what the hell to say. Take his Twitter account away, or at least edit his tweets and make him sound more professional. Like it sounds like some kid just blasting off. It just not professional. Drives me nuts.
It's been a while though since he picked on an individual stock. I think someone was commenting that in the chat that he kept. You remember, he did the GM one.
The Boeing was there too.
Cancel Air Force One right now.
Cancel the orders. Buy.
I mean, if you want to take a look, and I think I even did a little video on Trump tweets. They've been just a great fade, but Amazon here. trading down $6 here, trading at the lows of the session. I mean, man, if I was short and for some reason and getting a chance to bring it in, I think that's how I would look at it.
Seems like they're always buys.
Yeah.
When he tweets and something drops 1 or 2%, it's only down 0.5% because it's $1,100 stock, but it seems like those are all just buying opportunities. I mean, everything's buying opportunities, right? We get a dip of 1%, anything, it seems like a buying opportunity. So I'm a fader of Trump, meaning when he talks bad, I think I'm a buyer of those stocks.
Amazon.
So I'd be more inclined to buy it down here at 11.80 and sell it.
Buy Apple, saying Amazon doesn't even deliver using the post office. And I was thinking about that too. Isn't it like FedEx trucks that are coming?
Oh, they've got their own delivery services they're working on too. But yeah, it's FedEx, UPS.
In Detroit, we have an Amazon delivery person wearing an Amazon shirt and carrying an Amazon bag that drops off most of our packages.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the Trumpster's up to here, but as you can see, trading down. It was trading down over $6, now down only $4. So take that tweet here with a grain of salt. S&P's 96.25 up 10.5. Luke, biotech news here. We have one stock moving at least off some biotech news. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I'll throw a couple headlines at you. Big mover of the day, ticker ATRA. They got FDA approval to initiate a phase 3 trial. That one was up to about 30% when I checked a couple minutes ago. Not sure if you see anything there, Joel.
It was trading up last night. It got up to 1950 on some odd lots, 1975. So it looked like it was actually trading up at 19. This morning's had just a couple hundred shares trade 1950. This is very widespread here. Best bid 1785 up to 1950, which has multiple offers. They're small offers though. But it's still in the price discovery session. I will tell you that because I only traded 200 shares this morning.
Recent high of the move has been just above the 17 handle here. You had a bunch of highs at the 1750 area. So I looked for that as support on a pullback. Going to the longer term charts, not a lot in here. I would say if you really want a nice juicy target on the upside, back in April, this thing hit 2120, so that's not too far away. Still in the price discovery stage. You could see that on the weekly chart. But, man, this thing came hard off the $66 level and a long 2 years of consolidation, now breaking up to the upside here. And was that the other biotech news?
Yeah, I mean, we got AstraZeneca, AZN with that JP Morgan upgrade to overweight. Novo Nordisk, ticker NVO, also got that JP Morgan upgrade to neutral instead of negative rating on that prior. But AZN is looking like the bigger mover there. Again, not
good
a ton
pop.
of volume.
JP Morgan is influential. Obviously, it's one of your big five. 2.4% is trading up in the pre-market. Obviously, very active over in Europe here. So we have an active market. So price discovery no longer happening here, even though you can say, oh, well, it hasn't traded much stock here. Although it does say 730,000 shares. That was all off exchange. Really, if I add them all up, it's traded about couple thousand shares really over here this morning. But again, the major exchange is over in Europe here this morning, which is open right now. So this is just pricing. Our prices just follow what it's doing over in Europe.
34.93, 35 even buck. That looks like a big level. You're up there earlier in the year. You could clear that. You could see you got a little bit more room in the $35 handle. Quick, out of fuzzy here. Will you please explain to the room liquidity of a stock and how important it is?
I mean, that's everything. The nice thing, and this is, and a lot of people will trash high frequency trading, but you can't just trash it all together. There's different, there's good and there's bad high frequency trading. A lot of high frequency trading is just market making. And I will tell you, the one benefit they get is if you want to trade any European stock at 7 o'clock in the morning, you can come in and get like a 3 or 4 cent market for the most part. Maybe not an AstraZeneca, but bring up Deutsche Bank right now, symbol DB, or bring up, well, now I'm being made out a liar because the markets are wider here, but it is holiday trade. So maybe some of our high frequency traders are taking a couple days off, which I didn't know that they did. But usually, the markets are quite tight on these things at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that's because they're simply pricing it off of what it's doing over in Europe. So then they'll, if Deutsche Bank is trading the equivalent of 1905 US dollars over in Europe, obviously they're going to be trading in their currency. They'll often be bidding 1903 and selling or offering at 1907. So they're looking to make a couple cents. But if you just wanted to enter out at that time, then, you know, you can get in or out fairly easily because the high frequency market makers are just making the market off the exchanges. But liquidity, it depends on, you know, which context you're talking about it. But liquidity is everything for the market. And the majority of your liquidity providers now are high frequency traders. They make up about 50 to 60% of the overall trading volume, probably make up 90 to 95% of your liquidity, I would gather. And that is just basically, you know, who is on the bid, who is on the offer, who is, you know, allowing the aggressive buyer or the aggressive seller to get into and out of the stock. You have thinner stocks that, you know, have all kinds of liquidity problems. Some of the small caps, that's why they've tried, you know, a small cap tick size pilot. They've tried other things to no avail. I've always argued that it's off exchange market making, which is a little bit different, where, you know, that they kind of impede sometimes a little bit of liquidity providers online because they can match quotes. And that gives you, you know, that gives the person who's actually making the market on the exchange, puts them kind of to a back seat there. So you make the market, you bid the stock, somebody goes to sell it to you, and you don't get filled because an off-exchange market maker matched your quote. That's a little different story as well. But all this stuff has to do with liquidity. I've argued before, and I've argued through the CFA Institute, I've argued through Bright Trading, and I've argued to the SEC 3 times that I think we need to look at off-exchange market making and the impact it has on the small caps, because I believe is a major reason why we lack liquidity in the small caps, not the tick size, not that we were trading in pennies and they want to trade nickels. It's more that you're allowing everybody to match the quotes, and who wants to provide liquidity when somebody can match your quote. That's a lot of market structure lesson for 1 minute there, though, for the last minute here. So basically, liquidity just allows you to get into and out of a stock with ease. If you don't have liquidity, you have instances like the flash crash that we've seen where there's no buyers and no sellers in the market, nobody on the book. And if the books are empty, stocks can go into free fall. And we saw that in the 2 flash crashes, the one from May 6, 2010, and the other one from back in August of 2015.
I think also from our perspective, when on the show, when we talk about, you know, a big stock, for example, Walmart, like off its earnings, right? And then, I mean, it just cleared out. Let's go to a daily chart. You know, it that day when it gapped up, okay, it had to clear out a lot of size that it would have normally traded between, you know, 90.5 and 94. You know, on that day, it did. It had enough buyers, you know, to take the book all the way through there. There was big volume trading, and actually turned out to be a great day trade. But, you know, then, you know, sellers ganged up at like 100. And then, you know, finally, you know, the book and the big sellers liquidity, that was a little bit too much. It peaked at 100 that day, and then 113 another day, back to 100. So that's where your liquidity, you know, comes in when we look at some of these New York stocks and there's a big move. Is there enough volume in the pre-market to clean up what's in the book, those GTC orders that people aren't canceling? Dennis is excellent at, you know, looking at the volume relating to, you know, is it going to be enough to move the stock? We talk about that to, you know, opportunities, you know, if there's a lot of stock in the book, like on that day on Walmart, yeah, you could have bought near the open. And because of the latent sellers, you know, on the book, we'll see what it did that day. That day, it opened up at 95.12. And even though that was a much, much higher open, it's $5 higher open, almost $6, it only pulled back to 94.72. And then it took off and then ended up getting near 100. So that's the way that, you know, we try and look at things for the liquidity. What are the move in the pre-market if there's been enough volume to take out the book? And then we also talk about charts a lot. And the charts are formed by institutional orders. And big institutional orders are what makes your double and triple tops and a lot of these big stocks. Obviously, we could go back to the Walmart example of 100. You know,
it's still there.
Yeah,
there's still size at 100 kicking around, and it's acting like a brick wall. So, you know, the technician will say, "Oh, that's psychological." They can look at it and say, "Well, 100's been resistance." You can see it got up there to test it back on the 17th of November, but it's from what I saw last week, it had refreshed. So there's more to go at 100 here again. So what you're saying, Joel, making an excellent point here, is and this is what I've made up to this point a lot of times on the show too, it's the order flow that makes up the charts. That's why I'm an order flow trader. I like to look at order flow. I like to look at what's in the book. I like to look at how thick a stock is. I like to look at, you know, where there's gaps, you know, and you can look in the charts. But really, it is the order flow that makes the charts. So when you get to the order flow, you kind of get ahead of the technicals. And that's why I've always been an order flow trader. And we like looking at the charts. The chart is the quick way to kind of analyze and get a feel for, like, maybe, you know, there's something there. But when you look at the book, Now you can actually see something there. I'm like, oh, that's why the chart looks like that. So it is order flow that makes up the chart. So when you get to the order flow, you get ahead of the charts. And that's why I've always been an order flow trader and not just a technical trader.
And just going back to the gaps, let me see here. When was it? There was some gaps. I don't know if it was Facebook or Apple. It might have been Facebook offered. Maybe it was off this report here. Gapped up, right, and went up, made a new all-time high. Took a while, but eventually it came down. I think that was from earnings. It came down and filled the gap that you had from mid-October. It only went a little bit lower, and the way I kind of like to look at that on those gap fills is like, hey, what was the reason for that gap up? What was that big reason for the thing to go to 170 to 180? Oh, those dynamics are still there, right? And here I am. It's kind of getting like an instant replay of the scenario, plus, making it a gap fill. That would have been an area. But like Walmart, if you're waiting for that gap fill from that earnings, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer here because it hasn't even come near filling that gap.
Well, and it looks like it's going to take up 100 to me. I think eventually we take out that 100, and that's back to the order flow thing again. And Jimmy A making a good point here too. I'll just go on a quick tangent there. Is he's saying, do you follow the book during the regular hours? Not on the thick stocks. The book on a Walmart, GE during regular session hours is just filled with high frequency envelope orders. So they're enveloping so closely to the market that it all looks like this. It'll look thick here, and then those more orders will move. They're not solid. So, but during the regular session, the books open on New York at 7:30 in the morning, 2 hours before they open. I like to look at the book early because then you're seeing kind of like what's really out there. So it gives you a feel for where real liquidity is. And that's why, on the thicker stocks, I look at it during the regular session. Now, on the thinner stocks, completely different story because sometimes you don't even have high frequency market making, not nearly as much. You have the penny jumper and stuff, but no envelope active orders. So then those books are a little bit more real. So I would say, you get into a stock that trades like 20, 30,000 shares a day, I'm definitely looking at the book. You get into a stock that trades 2 million shares a day, the book during the regular session is useless. Never used to be that way, but it is now. So Jimmy A making a good point. I forget where I was going. I was just going to say with Walmart there. So Walmart looks like it's geared up to take that 100. And this is, again, the book coming in making, this is going to be, the turning point. Can they take out that 100 seller? So it's not about anything else here. It's not about the chart. It's about whether they can take out the big seller at 100. If they do, then the stock could go into breakout mode. The technician will notice the breakout in the charts, but we'll notice it before that because we'll notice when the size seller is gone if you're watching the book. So it gives you a leg up on everybody who's going to play Walmart for the breakout when they actually see it break out on the charts, because if you're looking at the book, you'll actually see the size go and the trades trade out.
Not all good news this morning. Luke, what's going on with ADTRAN, ADTN?
Yeah, ADTRAN. Sorry, guys, I was muted. ADTRAN down about 19%. It doesn't look like there's been a ton of trades yet.
What's the ticker?
Alpha Delta Tango Nancy, ADTN. The company came out last night at 8:15 p.m., pretty unusual time to come out and publish some news, and posted some pretty negative guidance. They see Q4 EPS of a penny versus 14-cent estimate, and they see Q4 sales of $125 million versus the $161 million estimate. So massively below, where the estimates are.
Not a good day. Not a good day to doing this. Dennis, is this one you trade or follow very much?
No. I've never actually made a trade on the stock here, I don't think. So don't know it. That's why I'd ask the ticker symbol, ADTN. So no, don't know anything about this company here. All we can do is go look at technicals then there and say, I see a lot of support back at 18 from July and October of 2016.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that it hit that level in November of 16. You had a 1790 print, also 1756 in October, 1812. Boy, in August, really August through November of 2016 here, that area, actually July through November, 18 came into play. Current trade, 18 and a quarter. Low 1810. If you have this thing short, I would be nibbling. I'd see what happens if you're putting 18 bids out there and you're getting peppered with it, to back off to 17 and a half. But I think you'll see some buyers at 18. Former low of the move is 20.30. So if it goes into rally mode, that was the former low of the move. 831, Dennis, what's the big money doing on the last day of the year on the open?
Not a lot. So there is some orders out there, and I'm just looking now, again, order flow trader. So I look to these imbalances. These are the opening imbalances that come out at 8:30 every morning. This feed is coming directly from the NYSE floor. So I'm looking at what is for sale or what is to buy. And these orders here that I give, for example, General Electric this morning is 304,000 to sell. What that means is relative to the closing price, which is 1736, there are 304,000 more shares to sell than to buy. Now, those could be marketable limits. Those could be limit orders. Those could be market orders. A market order is just like, give me any price. Those could also be limit orders where somebody's selling at 1735. If they were, for example, selling 1,000 shares at 1735, that would add 1,000 to the sell imbalance. So that's what that information means. So it gives you a feel for whether the stock might open up or down, and that all depends on relative to the close, obviously, too. 304,000 shares to sell. If GE opened at this point in time, if it was to open at 832 right now, it would open down. But again, this is early. Another institution might come in, might come in at the last second and say, put 500,000 shares to buy, and then the stock all of a sudden is going to go from looking like it's going to open down to looking like it's going to, open higher. So things change. But, you get a feel for it at 8:30, and you just get a feel for what the initial look is. And the initial look right now on GE is that it would open down, 304,000 shares to sell. Ford has 101,000 shares to sell this morning. Twitter has 48,000 shares to sell this morning, so that would open down. Square, 43,000 to sell. A few sell imbalances here. Potash, 53,000. Buy. Full disclosure, I do have a position on in POT. I want to talk about this here just in the next couple of minutes, because fast money, I'm telling you, is so influential lately. It's showing you how much this is a retail market. I've watched fast money, and they move stocks, but nothing like they're doing lately. I mean, we've got Carter Worth comes on there last night, likes the charts of the agriculture stocks, and they all just start popping big time. Potash trading up 3%. Agrium's trading up, AGU. We've gotten POT as a symbol on potash. CF Industries was popping off Carter Worth. Mosaic is another one. MOS. So COF, CF, MOS, AGU, POT, all popping like 2-3% because Carter Worth likes the chart. It seems crazy, but anyways, you can't argue with it. These guys have influence right now. Dan Nathan said something positive. I don't know if it was options or the chart. I missed the piece, but saw another trader at Bright just told me, it was Dan Nathan popping it. And AutoNation, AN. And it's up $1.50 because it's up 3% here this morning. It was up 3% last night. Seriously, not an analyst, not an upgrade or anything, just because Dan Nathan said something positive about it. It's crazy how much influence those guys have lately.
And you said you used to like to fade them, but
I always fade them because... And I still do it to a certain extent, but I'll tell you, the fades have been tough lately because there's follow-through. There's people who come in. The retail trader is dominant right now. Usually it's institutional money that moves stocks, and it still is to a certain extent, but the retail trader has some say in here. And these thinner markets right now, it's a lot of retail trade. So you got to be careful fading stuff because the retail follow-through can be wicked. So, just because stock's up $1.50 because you think it's an automatic fade because it seems that not rational that Dan Nathan's going to have more influence than an upgrade from Goldman Sachs or something. But I tell you, a lot of people watch that show, and the retail trader is pushing stocks right now. So props to Fast Money for building a show that's that influential. At least right now.
Yep.
Eventually, if the market started going down, then there'd be a lot less influence. But a lot of people watching these, and trading off the show right now because we're in this raging bull market.
Frankie23 likes MOS, Mosaic, so we'll keep an eye on that. 25.87 was the former high of the move. I like the chart here, and now it ticked up to 26.29. So back at 26, let's see if we can hold the top of yesterday's range and continue to rally in the ag stocks, a little bit thinner market. All right, we're going to stay on here. And we're going to bring on our final, well, we got to have one more guest later on. We're going to bring on Nicola Duke. And she's an analyst for Forex Analytics. And we are going to dial her right on the hop here. I'm going to add her to the call. Nicola Duke, I believe she's across the pond. And we are calling her right now to get her take on the foreign currency markets. Good morning, Nicola.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay.
We can hear you excellent. How you doing on this Friday morning? Well, it's not morning for you, right?
No, it's not morning for me. It's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime. All right. So already looking into the markets, what have you seen in the market so far today? Final trading day of the year, S&P futures poised to close at all-time high, as well as the Dow Jones Industrials. Tell us, you more like to focus on the foreign currency markets, correct?
I look at foreign currencies, and then this year a lot more of cryptocurrencies. I've been completely captivated by them. So yeah, so foreign currencies, this dollar weakness has persisted. But when I look across the board, a lot of the important currencies, the pound, the Aussie dollar, and the euro dollar are really important resistance. So it would seem weird at this late stage to see some profit taking in these moves, but I wouldn't be surprised. And when I look at gold and silver as well, I see gold and silver at major resistance today for the last year as well.
Let's talk about the cryptocurrency phase. So you're a pretty active Forex trader, right? So do you see, and I'm just curious here, do you see any changes in liquidity since the Bitcoin craze has erupted, or cryptocurrency craze? Has it taken away money from the...
Oh, I'm sure it's taken a lot from retail Forex, yeah.
Really?
A lot. Huge amount, yeah.
And, let's just talk. I mean, are you in the crypto or the Bitcoin or whatever because you like the price action and, you could trade it technically? Or do you see some kind of value? Because I'm sure Dennis is going to want to hop in here. Dennis and I, and go ahead.
I bought my first Bitcoins in 2011. I got pretty badly burned after Mt. Gox, and it was quite a long bear market after people got burned after that. And I suppose I was quite slow to buy the dip, but at the start of this year, it all looked kind of really interesting. And then I noticed that it was trading really technically Fibonacci stuff. When markets go to new highs, the Fibs and stuff were working really well, and it was trending so nicely. I'm really always attracted by any market that's trending, and they were all trending beautifully. Not just Bitcoin, but Ethereum, Litecoin. They were really, really nice to trade. So
you don't care about the relative value. If you can't go to the grocery store and use it, you are just looking at it from a technical trending standpoint then, correct?
Correct. I think it's a bit like the birth of the internet. I see Bitcoin a bit like it might be, is Bitcoin going to be AOL or Netscape? Is it going to be a dud, or is it going to grow to something really big first? I think I'm excited by the technology, but I think it's impossible to put a value on it. Like most of these projects are at least 2 years away from being kind of anything that we see how they work. So, might it be a bubble? It might be a bubble, but nobody's ever noticed a bubble until they burst. And I don't think although I see us in a correction, I don't think that the party's over yet by any means.
Nicola, Dennis Dick here, and I just want to ask you a couple things. Hey, how you doing? And you're a currency trader here, and this is the trouble I have, and obviously you just said you can't put a value on it, but I'm just not even comfortable trying to trade something when I can't figure out how to, like, when you look at a traditional currency, even say the British pound against the US dollars. Well, you have stuff you can analyze there because you can analyze how's the economy doing, what's interest rates all about. There's so many different factors that will influence price. None of that really applies with Bitcoin. Like it doesn't, it's hard to figure out. So what are your thoughts here?
You've got two things. You've got technical levels, that's it. And that literally is Fibonacci projections or retracements. Like if you buy pullbacks, then you've got that to help you. And the only other thing you've got is sentiment. And you really kind of need some social media gauge of sentiment or just media, when everybody's talking about Bitcoin on the news, that's the day you should be selling. And it's really hard. There's the other thing about if you trade actual Bitcoins rather than futures it's really hard to get in and out. It's very hard to, you can't easily go from Bitcoin to dollars at all. So it's really important to notice when the sentiment's really, really high like that and take some profit out, because once the market turns, these exchanges get completely overwhelmed and they can't cope with the volume, and you can't get out when you want to get out. So
that's what
it's a very difficult trade. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, how to trade these things? Because they are a little bit more tricky to buy and sell than obviously a traditional, Forex currency, because, you're not seeing, to my understanding, I don't trade the cryptocurrencies, but from what I hear is, you're not seeing, the actual bid and offer and the spreads like that. It's kind of like you can sell at this price or buy at this price. It's a little bit more hidden, almost like the bond market.
Well, you can. There is, each exchange has their own ladder, and you can see the depth of market. The spreads are, you can drive a bus through them, most of them, but you can see them. The other thing is that most of the really big volume in Bitcoin is done over the counter. And so you're only seeing representative volume. Yeah. And not only that, but it's like the old days of foreign exchange brokers where they were trading against you. So when you trade on these exchanges, they're taking the other side of your trade. And there's no laws about spoofing. They'll have massive sell orders and buy orders that if you get anywhere close will just poof, disappear. And so you have to be really careful. I think that anybody, new traders that are in cryptocurrencies and surviving, deserve medals, because it's like baptism by fire. If you learn this way, there's pretty much nothing you can't trade. So,
all right.
That's the other thing is the regulatory issues there as well. With auto regulation, you wonder if you're buying, something that's being manipulated. The price points here. I mean, the volatility is incredible because the liquidity probably isn't there that there isn't a traditional Forex market. But you also worry about possible price manipulation, especially on some of these smaller cryptocurrencies where maybe there's hardly any volume at all, and you get one player trying to pump the price, and they try to get it up to try to basically sucker other people.
You see a lot of that. You see a lot of that in social media influencers. You have to follow the right people, because if they say anything good or bad about any of them, then they go. And then, literally as people pile in, that it stops. And so there are a lot of people ending up with bags, holding them. But what is cool about it is because the spreads are so wide, because the transaction costs are relatively high, and there's no exchange paying HFT or algorithmic traders to be there, you're not trading against there's no HTFT. And I think it's unlikely, and it's going to be quite a long time until they come in. And so it really is old-fashioned animal spirits that so it is quite interesting and fun. It's quite fun. I wouldn't put all my risk capital in, but certainly cryptocurrencies have made this the best year of trading I've ever had, ever.
Oh, all right. That's a good statement, Dennis. I know you're getting ready. You open up that that account.
I really do think we'll see another leg of correction higher in Bitcoin, lower in Bitcoin before we can buy again. And for sure, I think we'll come back to about $10,000. We could potentially see 7,000, and everybody will be talking about how the world's ending, and that's when you need to get your money ready. And these altcoins, when Bitcoin goes down, the altcoins fall harder. But usually when it turns and Bitcoin goes up again, then the big altcoins rally first, and then the smaller ones tend to follow. So, and they outperform on the upside. So,
great observations there. Just going to the overall market here, and it seems like you've been busy trading the cryptocurrencies here.
I threw you a couple there. Sorry.
No, that's all right. No, we love to hear it. Just looking, maybe the story of the year that no one's talking about. Crude oil back over $60 now. I'm sure that was probably a long-term target for many traders. We had the big breakdown. This is really good for the overall market because you've had a laggard in the some of the oil stocks. They are picking up here, but I mean, getting bearish at 60 maybe looks like a foolish thing here. The way this thing went from 100 to 60 in 4 or 5 months here. I mean, a lot of times when something comes down so fast, I mean, it might not go up as fast here, but I mean, are you looking for crude to like 55, 75 next year? Or do you think, 60 is just going to be this brick wall and maybe go work our way back into the lower upper 40s or something? What you looking for your next year in crude oil?
I was definitely in the bearish camp, but I'm starting to review that. I think that we'll see 64 or 65. But actually, when I look at Brent long term and I look at WTI long term, I don't see really anything between us and 72. So I think that's where we go before we take a rollover.
Is that just, I mean, I have the monthly chart here on the front month contract. Is that just, looking at, those big red candles from late 2014? Is that what you're looking at?
And a bit of Fibonacci stuff thrown in there as well. But yeah, I definitely think 72 back to 72 is where we go. So.
Okay. All right. And U.S. stocks, do you dabble in any of those? Any particular favorites? Or
No, I look at the indexes quite a lot. I'm still really bullish. I don't see why the S&P wouldn't go to 3,000. So really? I think that we're like, we haven't had a bearish week all year. That's never happened. I think, long term, I think we will. But January, let's see if we get that seasonal sell-off.
Right. You have the January effect this year, so goes so goes the mark in January, so goes it for the rest of the year. And it certainly replicated it itself in 2017. We'll see what happens in January. Just I
think the bonds are more interesting. I think the bonds are super bearish looking to me. So
okay, looking at TLT here, just based on higher rates, you're getting a little bearish the bond market then, huh?
Yeah, I think this long term, if you look, get back to a weekly chart and this long term sideways wedge that, building, I think that, we take another swing lower, definitely.
All right. We've been on the line with Nicola Duke. I didn't mention that she is an ex-Royal Air Force officer and air traffic controller. That maybe that's why you're not afraid of heights in these in all these cryptocurrencies. She's joined the show a couple times over the last year. And did you get my email about the Women's Wealth Forum that's coming up in Boston? I know that'd be a little bit of a trip for you, but we certainly
But it's Boston. What a great town to go to.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll touch base with you after the new year and see if you can leave your dog for a day or two and come over and check out our forum. Thank you so much, Nicola. It's great to have a pleasant and soft voice here this morning. You have definitely picked up some fans in our YouTube chat here. So
thanks.
They love the accent.
Happy New Year, everyone.
They're like a woman that, a woman with that accent that trades cryptocurrencies. I mean, holy moly. I mean, what more could you ask for? But all right. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.
You. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nicola.
All right, S&P futures trading up 875 at 94.5. Dennis, only 10.5 minutes left to go in our final show of the year. What direction would you like to go in?
Back to imbalances just for a second, because GE is now 528,000 to sell. So there's some people tax loss selling here right now at the open in GE, and it's actually just turned red because of that as well. It looks a little bit heavy here. I think this could be the last. This could be a day, where you're going to see some more pressure just because of the tax loss selling.
What do you think about GE? You never dumped it, Dennis. What are you doing? Are you going to hold on to this thing goes to zero?
Probably. Is it going to zero?
What do you think?
And if you're saying it's going to zero, maybe I should dump it then. You just said it's going to zero, went down to 1732. Just fell 3 cents because Joel said it's going to
what
zero.
Do you got, Luke? What do you got? You got any GE?
No, I mean, similar to what Dennis was saying yesterday. I mean, it's a stock that's been around forever. They still have an okay yield. They have those big cuts in the energy space. New management in there.
Shake it up.
I think that this could be a pick of 2018. I'm not going to lie.
You want to know what my pick of? If you're looking at the big stocks that have really lagged, and I think that could turn it around here. Do you want my pick for 2018? And I've started to nibble into it here.
Can I guess? Can I take? Yes. It's a big stock.
Is it an S&P stock?
It's a Dow stock.
It's a Dow stock. Okay.
And following the whole theories of the Dow, this is one that did not have a great year here in 2017. It was actually down in 2017, but I think it could turn around.
IBM.
Yep.
Oh,
Why?
You want to know why? Because I think they're going to be a real player in blockchain. So you have all these companies that are, just coming in and, saying, okay, a blockchain, we'll change our name to blockchain to try and take advantage of it. I think you got Big Blue behind the scenes that want to be the player in blockchain.
Yeah.
And we know that they have a blockchain business model going, that they've got a business, unit that's going to be focused on that. There was a good Seeking Alpha article yesterday written about this, actually. And you're actually seeing IBM catch a little bit of bid this morning. I'm wondering if people have read that Seeking Alpha article. I just try to find it there, and I could post the link in the chat. But I'm just trying to go grab it here right now. Oh yeah, here it is. So, and it's funny that they actually took they took with the for the title of it, they took what we've been saying on the show, International Blockchain Machines. So I'm not sure if the author listens to our show or not, because we've been joking about international blockchain machines for a while. But they wrote up all the arguments. And, just summary here of the article, and just read it right from the Seeking Alpha article. It was written by Stonefox Capital. IBM has long focused on blockchain technologies as a distributor transaction ledger of the future. Company continues to expand partnerships and develop a robust platform for enterprise customers, and the tech giant is favorably valued for multiple expansion if blockchain becomes a hot technology of 2018. I think they're going to be a blockchain player. It's a cheap way, it's a cheap company. I mean, if blockchain dies off, it's obviously a different story here. But I've always thought they kind of missed the boat on AI. They were all over Watson. We saw Watson on Jeopardy 10 years ago, and now you have all these other companies that are beating them in AI. So they kind of dropped the ball there. I don't think they're going to drop the ball in blockchain. If you really are a believer in blockchain, I think IBM could be one of the major players. And if they start getting blockchain headlines, this thing will get hot there again. Yeah. So that's why I like the Seeking Alpha article. I agree with the author, Stonefox Capital. I think it's an opportunity for IBM here in 2017 or 2018.
I think you're spot on, Dennis. I've been asking myself why IBM has not been coming up in these blockchain conversations. I mean, I've got friends that are engineers over at IBM that were telling me, I'm working on IBM blockchain from 3 years ago. I had no idea what that meant then. But I mean, yeah, they've clearly been putting some serious money behind it. I mean, the stock's paying 4% too. This could be
they dropped the ball on the AI. They should have been the leader in AI because they were the first there. Watson was like the first thing. I mean, when was Watson created? Like 20 years ago, wasn't it? And now you look at all the other companies that are leading AI. IBM does not tend to drop the ball on blockchain. All right, so because they are there, like you said, Luke, 3 years ago, working on it here. Yeah. You're not seeing a lot of press releases because these big companies aren't coming out to hype. They're not changing their name to International Blockchain Machines. It's just a joke. But they have a business model built around it there, and they are smart. There's some smart people that still work at IBM, huge company there. I think I think they can come up with some blockchain some blockchain solutions there in 2018. And if blockchain stays hot, and that starts getting some press, IBM will get hot too. So that is my, laggard pick, that's been, an underperformer. Picking one of the dogs. I'd pick an IBM.
We're bringing someone else in here that mentioned that same thesis a couple.
And that was Sean Udall.
Yeah.
We got to give props to Sean Udall because he was on our show talking about it, and he got me thinking about it as well. Like we had heard, before, but when Sean takes, says something because he does his homework too. He takes note. Let's bring him in. This is a great time to bring in Sean.
Okay. He's trying to set up. Let me see if I can do his phone. Let's phone here.
We're trying to bring him in on the fly.
Yeah, we're trying
from California.
Arizona.
It's Arizona. It's Arizona.
And it's ringing. If not, I will try his cell phone. Sean of the Tech Stock Strategist.
It's early out there, and he wasn't scheduled, so we are really going to give Sean some props if we do get him, because it's 6 o'clock in the morning there.
All right, let me mute this for 1 second and let me dial it. Hold on one second. Yeah, keep going, Dennis.
Okay, so I'll just quickly, while we get Sean here in the background, I'll just take you through a couple other stocks that I had on my list to talk about there. A stock that everybody, is quiet there, but showed some life yesterday, HMNY. It's been quietly just sitting here, dead money here. Obviously had the big pop there to $38 back in October, got citroned. Meaning Andrew Left came out with the tweet and then the stock collapsed. It's back down kind of to where it came from, $5, but showed some life yesterday, got up to 690. So keep an eye on that one. It's got some volume already here this morning, 931,000 shares. It needs to take out yesterday's high. If it can get up over $7 and it starts to move again, that's the initial resistance point. It's struggling with it in the pre-market there. So you want to keep an eye on that level. If it can get over 7, that would be another little breakout there. At least, a continuation of the potential 2-day move, but it needs to get over 7, and it has not done that yet. And then just looking over here at a couple other ones that were on my list, I wanted to recover Watt because WATT was just a monster from $8 up to $32 here in the pre-market now. I mean, this thing is crazy. And one thing I will say again, I think if you're in this, and you're benefiting from this 300% pop in a couple of days or 400% pop in a couple of days, I personally would be probably ringing the register on it. I think, you're getting to a point where it's, maybe getting overdone. I mean, it looked overdone at 26 and now it's 32. So these things could continue for a while, but as Nick says, maybe too high for me to chase here now, but maybe too hot to short as well. So I'm hands off. But if I was in it, I think I'd probably be ringing the register. And then the other one, which got the pop.
Do we have Sean with us here?
I am. I'm here.
Okay.
There's Sean.
Sean.
I was going to mention Live Ventures, LIVE, and it's given some back. But let's go to Sean.
How you doing, Sean, on the last trading day of the year?
Good morning, Benzinga.
All right.
All right. Great to hear that enthusiastic voice here. First of all, we kind of took out all your targets. You were at the depths of despair when this market was getting hit. You kept on telling me 2350, 2400. Man, we took that out with ease, knocking on the door at 2700. Let's look into your crystal ball and give us some targets for 2018.
Oh boy, that's an interesting one. I do more work on individual stocks, but I always think about the market too. I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about where I think the where an ultimate number for the S&P is. But here's my gut right now. I think that we could have more upside than people think. I mean, that was maybe just part of the reason we had a decent year last year is nobody thought the market was going to go anywhere. But I think that, I'm pretty cautious right now. Put it this way. I think the next 200 to 300 point move is probably easier for a down move. So in other words, maybe an easy way to say it might be easier to hit something like a 3,200 on the S&P if we give back something first. We just seem to be in an area now where it just every 30 or 40 points in the S&P is like rolling a boulder up a hill. And I think part of the problem is we just haven't had anything akin to a correction for some buyers to come in with some authority and some vigor. So that's kind of where I am. And I think that if we do get some kind of a sharp short pullback of, let's say I'm wrong and it's 150 S&P points instead of 200 to 300, I just think some of the stocks that literally haven't really gone down much for 2 or 3 or 4 years are probably at more risk than they've been in a long time.
All right. So Dennis, this was, I guess, what his stock of the year was going to be. And you mentioned it on our show a couple of months ago, or the last time we had you on. One, this has been a severe lagger here.
Comeback story.
The comeback story. What do you think of IBM?
Oh, IBM, I think, is actually an example, and we talked about this a couple of times. I think that I'm a little surprised they haven't performed better since that last quarter where they actually had a gap up move and have held a little bit of the gap higher. But I mean, this is the kind of stock that I think if the market is going to find a way to go materially higher, and again, I think we could go 3,200 pretty easily, but it's going to have to get love from things like IBM. And there's actually a pretty good precedent for it. And the precedent would be something like an Intel. So, you've got an Intel, which was hated. Everybody was focused on NVIDIA, but Intel's back there still doing probably more chip R&D than any 5 other companies on the planet combined. So I don't think IBM's dead. I mean, it's certainly not one of my favorite stocks. I like something like a Mule, or I like Nutanix a lot better when it was cheaper. And there's, I could rattle off 15 companies I like more than IBM. But if the market's going to find a way to go materially higher, and IBM's got to get to something like 180. And so, yeah, no, I mean, I put it this way, I'd much rather own IBM than something like VMware, or I'd much rather own IBM than Adobe, or I'd much rather own IBM than Autodesk.
When you say there's some value there in IBM, I mean, it's got the nice dividend there. It's fairly cheap. And I think, something that you said on our show and something we would say on our show, I think they could be a blockchain player.
No, well, here's the funny thing. I think they might be a blockchain player. Nobody knows it yet. Just like I think Cisco Systems could be a blockchain player. Nobody knows it yet. So we'll see. But yeah, it's too cheap. They've got a big revenue base. And, people talk about, so again, Adobe's a great thing to talk about because, there are some stocks like Facebook, which has continued to produce amazing growth, 35% plus growth. Adobe doesn't grow that fast. So it's really been sort of an EPS monetization story at Adobe with very mediocre growth. But it's just a love stock, just like Autodesk became a love stock, just like NVIDIA became a love stock. So yeah, things can change pretty quickly. And it does feel like the last, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but the last 3 to 4 months of this year, I would say there's definitely a whiff of rotation, and there's some value hunting starting to go on. And usually that doesn't only last for 2 or 3 months. It usually lasts when you get a rotation, a major cyclical rotation. It usually lasts for anywhere from like 18 months to 24 months. That's the typical value to growth rotation, or small cap to large cap rotation, or vice versa. And geez, when's the last time value performed? I mean, I think growth's been leading for like 4 years now.
All right. I think Dennis just got off to trade the open there, but we just want to wish him the best on the final trading day of the year. Dennis, go out there and get him. Sean, I want to address some issues here from the chat. We have some pretty good memory here. We're going to stay on for a few minutes extra. We are on here with Sean Udall of Quantum Trading Strategies here, my fundamental expert that loves to do the technicals as well. Sean, do you still like LITE?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I like it a little bit more recently because they've had a pretty sharp pullback. So yeah, no, in fact, I haven't changed my view. That's kind of one of the big, in fact, if there's an area that could be a very hot area, it would be the 3D sensing players. So, there's a few others, but Light's like front and center in that 3D sensing area. No, I like them. I mean, that's still a very cheap stock too. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that stock was 20 or 30 points higher just on a big burst.
All right, let's move over to the Apple news earlier in the week. And I think I repeated your tweet that you have on it. Comes out. I don't know if you saw Barron's, Apple's golden moment on the cover, and then the news out of China of the slowdown. You had a pretty good tweet on that. I know you're a long-term holder of Apple Inc. Just tell us how you interpret the news here and what you have going forward in Apple for 2018.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really like Apple stock that much. I'm pretty much just writing covered calls on my position and pretty close to Apple money calls. But it was, it's more because I just liked the stock for years and years, and it's just gone up a lot. But I think as far as that news, it's just sort of ridiculous. It's basically someone making up something about what someone else maybe have said. And so the fact of the matter is nobody knows anything about Apple's supply chain really except them. They're very secretive about it. They're very good at being secretive, but it just the whole comment was sort of ludicrous because if it's true, let's just take the case that it's true. Well, the only way the iPhone 10 sales would be doing poorly is if iPhone 8 sales are really good, or maybe the cheaper iPhone 7s or something. So it really doesn't hurt Apple. But it just when people comment on these Apple, oh hey, they're going to have a production cut, or they're telling their suppliers this or that. Usually it's just almost a fabrication. So I tend to ignore that stuff. I actually think what did I say? I don't know, 6-8 months ago. I mean, this will be a very long upgrade cycle. So this will be the iPhone 8/10 upgrade cycle will be a more powerful and longer upgrade cycle, excuse me, than the iPhone 6 cycle was. And that was the last big size super cycle. So, the 5 and the 7 cycles weren't as good, but the 4, 6, and 8 cycles will be really good and they last longer. So Apple's fine. It's good. I mean, hey, if you want to hold it, hold it. To me, there's just stocks that have way more up. I'm put it this way. To me, there's just stocks that have the upside that I thought Apple did when it was 92. So, hey, I liked Apple at 92. Given the market cap, I mean, it's almost doubled. There's just a lot of other things I'd rather be in.
All right. Rob Hood's asked me about Kanye West here, and he says, I don't know if he's pulling it in from one of your tweets or he's pulling my leg here.
Oh no, no. So Kanye West bought Kim, what Netflix, Disney, somebody help me, Netflix, Disney, Amazon, I think, maybe Apple too, but anyway, so he basically bought, I think, 3 of the 4 FANG stocks, gave her stock certificates, made headline news. I don't know if that's a Kanye top. We'll see.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I'm not quite. I didn't read my National Enquirer this week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but you know what I mean when media, it's like the Barron's top or the wall, or the Drudge Report top or low. When famous personalities become mentioned for their stock buys, it's like the shoe shine boy, giving tips in 1929, right? It's the same effect.
Okay. Redfin, when you're on the show here a little over a month ago, you liked this stock here. It's had a nice rally, looking for changes in the real estate market. Is this something that you took some profits in, or are you still riding?
I have. No, in fact, I took a very nice short-term profit. I'm going to keep Redfin. I mean, so now what I'm hoping for from a trading perspective, now I want the fade. I want the pullback, and I'll buy the pullback. It's actually surprised me. I actually thought Redfin was going to be kind of one of my Q1 winners. And I didn't really think it was going to have a big year-end flourish like it's had. But no, I plan on owning Redfin for, at least a year or more. Now, I mean, if the thing goes double or triple, I'll take it off. But I really think this could be a big grower, a big disruptive company for a long time. And frankly, the move, the last 6 points higher, kind of out of nowhere, have been surprising. Honestly, I can't really. It's just decided that it's people like the quarter better than they thought, and stocks move the way they move. Who knows? But I mean, for some it's got buying sponsorship for some reason now. But there really hasn't been any news. There hasn't been any real notable upgrades. There hasn't been, the company hasn't announced anything. So it's just kind of been a surprise late year winner.
What has been your most disappointing stock here in 2017?
Well, probably relative to how well the company has done fundamentally. And we talked about this a couple of days ago privately, is FireEye. So I think you had reminded me that FireEye was one of my stocks of the year, and FireEye didn't have a terrible year. I mean, it probably performed in line with the market, maybe higher than the market, but really the stock is much riskier than owning the broad market, so it should do a lot better. But here's the weird thing with FireEye. Here's the key. They've actually had, so out of the last 4 quarters, they didn't really have any bad quarter. So they kind of got the bad quarters behind them. And I would say 3 of the 4 quarters were really good. And 2 were surprisingly powerfully good. And frankly, the stock hasn't gotten much out of it. And, I'm not 100% sure why. It's really not FireEye. We could talk about CyberArk too. In fact, CyberArk had only 2 good quarters this year and kind of 2 poor quarters. But what happened at CyberArk is they had this nice late rally, and they'd given the whole thing back up. So they had a good quarter. They went from 39 to 47. It's basically back to 41. So for some reason, the security stocks just don't seem to gain any steam or hold any gains. Palo Alto Networks saying 2 really good quarters in a row, and stock really hasn't done much. It's bounced off kind of desperate lows, but that's all it's done. So I don't know. I don't know if it's more of a sector thing and there's just not as much institutional sponsorship right now, and it's a lag effect, But yeah, relative to how good they've reported and the rebound off of really poor numbers, I think the stock would have doubled this year just on fundamental improvement. So, so I think it has a long way to go as long as they don't miss again.
Yeah, sticking with it in 2018. All right, let's move on to Twitter. And we had a fun discussion about it yesterday. And we were just talking about targets and upside here. This one took a while to get going here. You trimming anything here at the 25.25 level? I noted that when you had the takeout rumors, you got to 25.25. It went back under 15. Now you came back out to this area, just hanging up. We were discussing, 50% retracements, and we looked at the 50% retracement here of the big move, and you kind of discounted that. You kind of threw out that 74.73 as kind of like an artificial high, and I mean, you got to validate that low at 13.73 here. I mean, you talked about the mid 30s. I talked about 40. And, that's where the IPO, the original price, a lot of price action there. What are your projections?
Yeah, no, this is a very interesting thing. And and put it this way, here's what the best thing I'm going to say about Twitter, and I think the best thing for traders is it's really probably going to come into your wheelhouse. And what I mean by that, I think it's going to become a technical trading story. So right, what it's done to crawl off the lows of 13, 14, 15 and get to where it is now has kind of been on, the end of the demise of Twitter and now the reemergence of a stronger Twitter. And fundamentals have improved sort of slowly, but there's definitely a turn occurring. The company's done a lot better for a few quarters and sort of the hatred has ebbed, right? So now I can kind of attack Twitter from a technical standpoint. And this is you kind of hit all the key points. I could just let's just talk fibs if you want. So there's a key fib level. It's basically right at a key fib level right here, level. And this is also very close to the 18-month highs or something. The next key point is roughly 31.32. Above that's like 41.42. Now, there isn't anybody in the world that thinks it's going to go to 40 or 45 again, except maybe me and you. But really, I think now it kind of becomes a technical trading story, and this is when these things can really take off. So I think at this point, all Twitter doesn't, as long as they don't miss or miss badly, it can be a technical trading story and keep working higher. Now, on the other side, if they keep producing improving quarters and keep accelerating growth, the fundamentals will just sort of accelerate the technical action more. So, I have a short-term target, short-term being, let's say, within 3 to 6 months of that 32 marker. So I think the stock finally breaks above this level. It's kind of at a key resistance level here. 32 is my next major mark on it. And then, again, above that, I think it's got a decent probability of being a $40 stock in 2018. I would say at least a 50% chance, if not higher. So we'll see. Now, here's the last thing I'll say. If all of a sudden this thing starts trading between 32 and 44, guess what happens? At that point, I think the old highs can come into play again. Until it gets above 32, I'm still going to discount those all-time highs. So we'll see. So it's got to prove it to me a little bit. But I do have a fundamental model I have their growth being anywhere from 5 to 10% higher than pretty much anybody else in Wall Street right now.
Any thought, I don't know if you follow this one, MDB, MongoDB Incorporated, Rob Hood, I think Rob Hood is asking about that one. Is that one you have any insights on?
I know it a tiny little bit. I have done a little work on it. It's I believe it's a big data software play or an AI software play, recent IPO. I honestly don't know that one very well. I'm kind of, there's a lot of new companies that have come out. I can only follow some. I already follow a few hundred as is. So if basically what I do, if I line a stock up and I can't see it significantly better than, let's say, 20 or 15 or 20 of kind of my current high growth favorites, sometimes I just say, look, I don't have time to add another name to the list. If I find that hey, this name looks a lot better than something else I'm following. I'll delete something else and add it. Here's a name that's similar, and I think I like better, AYX, Alteryx. And that they've had 2 really good quarters in a row. The stock's kind of close to all-time highs. The all-time highs are only like 6 or 8 months old or something. But so that's probably a name I favor over MDB. But MDB's been strong. They had a good report. I know them a little. I really haven't spent much time researching them though. But I've looked enough to kind of line them up versus my growth matrix. And, I've got 20 or 25 names I like just as much.
All right, Sean, we're going to let you go here. Sean Udall of Quantum Trading Strategies, making some good calls on Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep Show. Have a great trading day. Finish the year strong, and we'll be talking to you early in 2018. Thanks, Sean.
You too. Thanks for having me. Have a great 2018.
Right. Luke wanted to talk about one more stock here with some news before we wrap things up. What do you got for me, Luke?
All right, guys. Everybody loves a good tragedy. I want to come in and talk about ZK International. That's ticker is ZKIN. This is a stock. It was trading at $9. 2 days ago, yesterday, they came out and they announced that they have some sort of blockchain exposure. Stock spiked as high as close to $18, finished the day at 10 again. This was a $9 stock 2 days ago. Today, they put out a press release that they did a $6 per share private placement.
Ooh.
Yeah, not good. These are restricted units, so there will be some sort of time period where, before the seller can sell them. But again, yeah, the spiked the stock to $18 yesterday. Come out today with a $6 per share private placement. So it's a small issue. I'm very, very interested to see what it does off the open. But I can't imagine that would be great. The person who invested that or did the $6 per share, his name is Antonis Guoga. He is a Lithuanian poker player. He was the leader of the liberal movement in Lithuania for a very short period of time before having to step down after allegations of corruption. So, again, everybody loves a good tragedy. I can't imagine that this one would be especially positive.
All right, we'll see. I mean, that $6 offering price, still $4 above that, so you might want to dig into the details of that because those prices usually act as a magnet, but there might be some other factors going into that as well. Spinner Goose just made a good call with that. I know he was talking about the deep freeze. I'm thinking about buying me one of those codes. New all-time high in pre-market trading here. Stock was controversial, but had the IPO 31.95 higher for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. So we'll see if that rally can continue.
Yeah, and I'll add in there too, Joel. Its stock's up 85% since its IPO earlier this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. We stayed on a little extra, give you a little extra incentive to listen to the show in the new year. Thanks for sticking with us. I'll give you the number and one number only, 98 even. That was your high. You had a double top there. We went up to 98.25 in the pre-market trading. We'll see if sellers come in and lock profits up here after SPOOs being up 8.5. Gold back over 1,300, up 580 to see if it can settle the year over 1,300. And surprise move of the year here, crude. That's going to do its best to close over 60, up 27 cents at 60.11. So thanks for joining us here in 2017. We got some great things in the hopper for next year. So we look forward to talking to you guys on Tuesday morning. Thank you and have a great day.
Happy New Year's, everyone. Thanks for letting me join this week.